One of the nice things to come out of Disney Plus is we'll be getting a slew of documentaries looking at the history of the company. The first documentary series out of the gate is The Imagineering Story. Directed by Leslie Iwerks, who previously directed the Pixar story, it was originally going to be a feature film. 6 years in the making, there was so much material and information to go over, Disney decided it would be more suited as a 6-part series, and launched it on Disney Plus. You hear Disney is producing a documentary about their theme parks, and you might expect it to just be a commercial. And yes, it is a bit of a commercial in that it creates a desire to want to visit the parks. However, I was surprised at how self-critical it was about some of the parks' previous failures. The interviews conducted for the Imagineering Story are primarily from Disney employees, who clearly know the ins and outs of the operation. They even bring out Michael Eisner to talk about his period running Disney. There's also a lot of neat behind-the-scenes footage and archival material that add a lot to the presentation. The episodes are neatly divided into specific time periods. The show, of course, starts with Walt Disney getting the idea for Disneyland and trying to put it into place. The first day was infamously a disaster, and the first episode does go into that. We then learn about how Roy Disney tried to continue his brother's ambitious plans as best as he could by building Walt Disney World, and we see the stress that caused him. The series is candid about how Disney was run following Walt's death, and the more corporate mindset that took over. One of the most important interviewees on the program is the late Marty Sklar, who had worked with the Disney theme parks since about the very beginning, and his remarks and insights are especially appreciated. As I said, the Imagineering Story does not sugarcoat some of the difficulties that came with the building and running of the parks. When we get the section on Disneyland Paris, for example, it goes over the controversies that came with building a Disney park there, the negative reaction from the French, and the park's initial failure in its first few years. The series also goes over some of the theme parks that weren't built. A significant amount of time is spent on Disney's America, a theme park meant to celebrate American history, and which was intended to be built near Washington, D.C. We're shown the negative publicity this proposed park generated, and does come to the conclusion that maybe this wasn't the brightest idea on Disney's part, and it was for the better it never came to be. The Imagineering Story especially goes to town on Disney's California adventure. They go over the odd motivation for wanting to build a theme park in California that celebrates California and features recreations of real things you can already visit in California. That episode also shows the negative reviews DCA got and why park visitors were largely disinterested in the park on its opening. There's even a portion devoted to Superstar Limo, and what a ridiculous idea that was. The Imagineering Story is not just devoted to the parks, though, as was shown context for the state of the Walt Disney Company during those periods, like when outside forces tried to buy the company and sell it for parts, and the initial concern when Eisner and Frank Wells took over. However, in between the acknowledgments of failure, there are moments of happiness and excitement. The experiences of building the Asian Disney parks are shown as largely positive, for example. We also get information about the Disney Cruise Line and how that came to be. I'm not all that familiar with the cruise line and Tokyo Disneyland, so it was good to learn about their development and what Disney Imagineering did to make them stand out. Now, even with the occasional self-critique, the Imagineering Story is admittedly sunshine and rainbows about Bob Iger's turn as CEO. This makes sense, seeing as he's still in charge, and he did help in turning around California Adventure and finalizing the acquisitions of Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilm. But considering how much the show throws Eisner under the bus for some of his decision-making, it's definitely playing favorites here. Nonetheless, I found every hour-long episode of the show to be incredibly engrossing, and it's always great hearing how classic attractions like Pirates of the Caribbean, It's a Small World, and Haunted Mansion came to be. It may not give you the same experience as actually visiting the parks, but I would say it's the next best thing. Let me know in the comments if you've seen the Imagineering Story, and thank you for watching.